Hi, and welcome to another 5 Minutes with Harold Feld, where we take incredibly wonky, insanely boring things and try to make them slightly less boring because this stuff is important. Today I want to talk about something we've talked about a lot here at Public Knowledge, the Anti-Counterfeiting Trade Agreement, or ACTA. The President and everybody at the White House has said that ACTA is must pass, which seems really weird because Obama has been one of these guys who seems to get it on tech, and, so what's he up with about ACTA? Well, I've been looking at some of the things he's saying, and what he's talking about, makes a lot of sense when you read it. We must use the
full arsenal of tools available to crack down on practices that blatantly harm our businesses.
Well, who the heck wouldn't want that? That includes negotiating
Proper protections and enforcing our existing agreements.
Okay. And moving forward on new
agreements, including the proposed Anti-Counterfeiting Trade Agreement.
Okay. That's fine, but here's really the problem with ACTA. ACTA is actually divided into two parts. There's the stuff that everyone agrees on that makes sense. We want to go after the people who are making the knockoff Louis Vuitton bags, and we want to go after the people who are making counterfeit drugs, and we want to go after, the people who are committing crimes by any definition of crimes. And then there is what I will refer to in my very non-judgmental way as the crazy stuff. And the crazy stuff includes all of this, if somebody accuses you of downloading something, that's not yours 3 times, then you're kicked off the internet forever, or graduated response. The things that everybody says isn't going to change U.S. law, but really kind of changes U.S. law about burden of proof, responsibility of broadband access providers to act as policemen, all of the stuff that we've been worried about. That's over here in the crazy stuff pile. And then there's the reasonable stuff pile, which is we got to have more enforcement of our agreements, got to train folks internationally on how to spot counterfeiting. We have to make a serious commitment to making sure that countries bring people who are doing real counterfeiting, well-established crimes to justice. That's the stuff that most of the people, when they talk about ACTA and how we have to pass ACTA and how it's important, the folks in industry that is not the content industry, the folks who aren't Hollywood guys, when they talk about ACTA, they're talking about that stuff. The problem is that a very small industry segment centered around Hollywood, the entertainment industry, the music industry, the usual intellectual property suspects, wants all the crazy stuff. So what we're having is we'd like to have a real trade agreement. Something that would actually be about trade and not about changing intellectual property law. Something that would be about enforcement. Something that would be about anti-counterfeiting, like it's in the name. But that's all being held hostage by a very small industry segment. So here's my advice to President Obama, the U.S. Trade Representative, and all of you industry guys who aren't in the entertainment industry, who just want to make sure that stuff that's got your trademark a symbol on it and your name on it isn't being counterfeited somewhere else, and that if you're producing medication, it's not some counterfeit stuff that's killing kids. For those of you who all want that, my advice to you is tell USTR to ditch the crazy stuff. Don't let Hollywood hold ACTA hostage. Free ACTA. Let ACTA go. Get the trade stuff done in the Trade Department and put the crazy stuff back where it belongs, which is either WIPO or the crazy pile, depending on how you think about it.